Hello there and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by Ian Doyle. How are we, Ian?
I'm okay.
Happy as ever. And Paul Gorst, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thursday isn't a little bit of a break from the usual formats, but good. No press conference to dissect and talk about, but there's enough for us to keep going, I think. I
think so, yeah, just about. Plenty of things on the agenda, but first, a big thank you to our friends at NordVPN who help us do what we do. So thank you to Nord, and remember, to get the best discounts off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred, and our link gives you 4 months extra on a 2-year plan. There's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the podcast episode description box. We have new mics. You feeling good?
We do.
Yeah.
We've been told to show them off, so I'm not entirely sure how we can do that.
So
can we do some kind of special sound effects or something?
Our producer is very happy. We've got new mics, so hopefully you can hear us better. Hopefully you have no feedback, but if you do have feedback, we have no feedback. If you do have feedback, please let us know what you think of our new mics.
Apparently we're getting a bit of praise on the Royal Blue, our Everton counterparts, weren't they? So
hopefully you can hear us a little bit better.
Before we go any further, can I just say that Joe makes a big deal of making brews, and he's got his own little league table, which you might see on social media now and again. And if anyone can see this on YouTube, he's made me a brew, made all of us a brew, but he somehow made the cup significantly dirtier than it was than when I actually gave it to him. So that is some achievement. Have you managed that?
Well, that's a lie live on air, but there you go.
But it's not a lie live on it. It's literally people can see it.
Well, they can't because they
can see this. What's this?
They can't have seen your cup pre-brew, though, can they?
Well, I know what it's like.
Well, have you got a picture?
No, but I know
exactly. So you've got no evidence. You've got no evidence. So take your accusations and stick them because you've got no evidence. So
I see. Like that, is it?
Yeah, it is like that. That's a fact.
Ever thought of being a lawyer?
Well, I've just out-lawyered you, so
well, you haven't really.
Sit back in your place and be quiet, as a great man once said to you.
Who was that?
Sam Carroll.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he?
Don't you remember his first time on?
I remember that.
First time on work experience. He came in and told Ian to
get back in his box.
Be quiet and get back in his corner.
But then again, I'd said to him, he'd turned up at 7 o'clock and he'd been out since 5.
Anyway,
up till 5, and I did say to him, you probably might not want to come into work in this state.
Lots of people who listen to this pod don't know who Sam Carroll is, so I think we should move on from that. We are live on YouTube, so if you'd like to give us a like, subscribe, press the bell, any of those nice things, please do it. Please do it if you're on Apple Podcasts. Give us a review and give us some stars there, or on Spotify you can review. Anywhere you can say and do nice things, do it. That's pass it forward and be a nice person. It makes us happy. And if you'd like to send us an email with some thoughts, with a question, we will answer them here. joe.rimmer at reachplc.com, and I will answer it. I have a question from Ashwin, which I'm going to answer. I'm going to ask to the guys shortly. But beforehand, I've also been asked to remind you about Theo Squires' post-match podcast. He gets along to most of the games at Anfield and produces the post-match pod from there. Apparently, he's got a new mic as well. Ian, our producer, has told me to say that there's been a little bit of feedback to say that the sound hasn't been great on those podcasts so far. But he's got a new mic, so hopefully that should make that better. So go and give Theo a listen after the match. He'll be at the match at Anfield on Saturday, so give him a listen. Right. Sorry, Luke Almon's asked already. What was the post on X about Ian? Please explain for us all, mate.
What?
Which one?
That narrows it down. Which one? There's about a million of them. Which?
There, should we have a look?
Which one is that?
Ian loves these pods, doesn't he? Yeah.
No. But go on.
And Roy Hodgson has said, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Roy. Right, Ashwin's question.
Roy Hodgson wouldn't say good afternoon. He'd say, middle of the road afternoon.
Yeah.
He wouldn't want to commit to how good or bad the afternoon actually was.
Second half of PSG, it wouldn't be that one, will it?
I don't know. That's not very controversial.
Let's not go through every one.
I've realised what it is. We'll come back to that later. Okay, I've realised what it is. We'll come back to that later.
Right, Ashwin says, I know a lot of people are irritated about the lack of transfers, etc., but I want to hear your thoughts on the youth pathway Liverpool... the youth pathway for talent to sign for us. If we constantly sign players, the youth won't get an opportunity and subsequently will not join the club. We need to maintain that pathway. It's something we should be proud of as club and supporters. So who will the next few youngsters to be given an opportunity this season? Do you think Naoni could deputise for Gravenberch in the future?
Bit too soon to say on Trey Naoni. Is he even 18 yet? He's obviously come in and he's captained the under-21s a little bit in the youth league, but certainly someone who they've got massive hopes for, I know that. And you could sort of tell in the AC Milan game in the youth league that they'd earmarked him as one of their more threatening players, and he had like 2 or 3 men on him every time the ball gets played into him. I think he's in the perfect position he's in now. Just sort of coming on in cup games and getting a few more minutes here or there, and he will be on the club's pre-season tour again, Moni, all being well if he's not injured. And I think he's in an ideal position. I don't know whether he'd be deputising for Gravenberch, in sort of proper, meaningful, Premier League games at this stage. But certainly he's got the potential to at least be someone who could be under consideration in a couple of years if he sort of continues on the path he's on now. But a little bit early for him, yeah.
Yeah, try Ione. And to be honest, Liverpool's general recruitment policy, because they are a club that gives youth a chance, and they've done well for it in recent seasons, haven't they?
Well, they are, but, and Rio Ngamoa, he obviously started in the FA Cup game against Atkinson Stanley, but otherwise I don't think Slot's given any newer youngsters, an actual chance yet, because he's still trying to get used to his actual first team. We've seen Tyler Morton, James McConnell and Yoni in and around the squad, but between the 3 of them, they played 0 minutes in the Premier League this season, which might be a bit surprising to some people, especially when you consider that they played in the League Cup. Played the Champions League? I can't remember. I don't think they have they, any of them?
I think Morton did, but it was a couple of years ago now.
No, I meant this season. This season, has he? So I think it's League Cup and FA Cup that they've been restricted to. So it's still early days, and we've seen that these things are quite cyclical in terms of players coming through, and then you can have a big batch of players for 2 or 3 years. You can get a few good ones, and then you can have a few years where you don't really get any, and that's just the way it works, because you've got to bear in mind that Liverpool are competing for a lot of youngsters alongside not just the Premier League clubs, but in terms of the actual area that they're in. City, United, Everton. They're 4 big clubs, competing for some of the top talents from around the region. So that's probably why Liverpool, they bought in Ione, they bought in Ngamoa. I think they brought in McConnell as well, actually. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah. Amara Nallo from
exactly. Nallo's another one, yeah.
Kate Gordon going back a little bit
Bobby
further.
Clark, and obviously he's gone to Besetic, was the same. Ben Doak. So Tyler Morton, unusual in that sense, that he's come all the way through. Before then, you're looking at Curtis, Nico Williams, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Kelleher, I think he'd been there a while, hadn't he?
Ringman Rovers.
Conor Bradley's another one that they brought, but he obviously is a bit different. I think he was only 15 at that time.
Yeah, I think Kelleher was around about 15 as well.
So slightly different, those things have changed, certainly in the academy, not just at Liverpool, but all clubs were, without wishing to get too technical about it, you never used to have Category A teams buying or looking to buy players off other Category A ones, and that's started to happen now. So that's why Chelsea were a bit upset with Liverpool. Not so much that they'd done it, but that Ngamoa had gone in the first place. So going back to your initial question, I don't necessarily think there are players now ready to come into the first team from the academy, but there are probably 3 or 4 who, if they continue to get chances, will at least have the opportunity to show whether or not they can or not.
I think it almost works in reverse sometimes with youth football. Liverpool are able to sign a large pool of players over other clubs because of the size of the club and the stature and the history and all that sort of stuff, whereas younger players probably be minded to join a lesser club because you get more opportunities, quicker, I guess. So it sort of works in reverse in a way, doesn't it? But Liverpool have been really proactive and aggressive actually at that level in terms of bringing in who they feel are the sort of best young players in the country for at least the last 3 or 4 years. I'm sure that's always been the general idea, but you look at like Kate Gordon, Ben Doak, and like you just mentioned there, certainly Rio Ngamoa, all players who Liverpool feel some of the best young talents of their age range in the country at the time. And hasn't quite worked for Gordon yet. You can certainly see the potential in Ngamoa, and Ben Doak is shining at Middlesbrough now, isn't he?
Yeah. The one that I'd say probably got a good chance is Jayden Dance, who, when you're a striker, the thing that doesn't change no matter what level you're at is the size of the goal and where it is. And he just seems to know where it is, and he's always seems to put himself in the right position to score goals. He did it, didn't he, against Accrington? He makes the run, but he's in the right place to put away the rebound. Was a bit like his goal against Southampton in the FA Cup last season. His other goal against Southampton was a very good finish, having run onto a pass from, I think it was Elliott, wasn't it? I think so. But at any level he's played, he looks good, and he's got the advantage of being physically ready to step straight in, I think, and that's a massive deal, especially when you're a striker or a centre back. If you've got that straight away, then that gives you a head start compared to some of the other players in other positions. You sometimes have to grow into it.
Yeah, I think that's massive, and I think Dan's looks physically ready, doesn't he? And like you say, I think
he benefits as well from the fact his family, obviously his dad used to be a footballer.
Yeah, but I think it's a hard balance to strike, isn't it? Because obviously Liverpool are a team that want to compete for trophies now, and giving youngsters an opportunity. We've seen lots of other clubs. Chelsea are probably the prime example of a club that perhaps doesn't strike that balance and then loses some of those young players. But I think Liverpool do it quite well. And I think, Ashwin, you're absolutely right. I think Liverpool do need to protect that pathway. And I think that explains why Liverpool don't splurge summer after summer in the transfer market, because they do want a balance and a pathway through to the first team, and it's benefited from them. They've benefited from it in recent years. So,
well, the League Cup final last year is the ultimate example of that.
And someone like Trent, I think there are certain clubs that someone like Trent wouldn't have come through at because they just won't get the opportunities. So, thank you for your question. Thank you for your support. Ashwin said as well, he's a long-time listener. I listened back when Christian Walsh was on the pod. Christian hasn't been on the pod probably now for 6 years. So
maybe not 7.
Maybe not 7 years. 2019?
2019, he was still knocking around, wasn't he?
So thank you for your support and thank you for your question. Another question for you, Ian, which comes from, I think, from all our listeners, really, which is, are Arsenal still title favourites?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain further? Would you like to elaborate?
Just keep reading the story that I wrote weeks ago. It hasn't changed.
Is it just based on the fixture list?
Yeah. 100%.
Well, I think there's more to it than just who teams are playing, because everyone has to play everyone.
Oh, don't even get me started on this. Yeah, it depends when you play them, and it depends who you've got left to play.
No, but
you're right.
That's more to it than just who's playing. Because I know it's a bit of a cliche, but there just aren't any. Well, there may be like 3 or 4 easier games in the Premier League now. You look at something like Bournemouth or Nottingham Forest, absolutely flying. So you can't just look at that as a fixture on the paper and say, oh, well, there's 3 points.
That you've got to underline your point here, because Bournemouth played Arsenal at the beginning of the season, and everyone, well, that's a surprise result. But Liverpool have to go there in a few weeks, and if Liverpool get beat, no one will say it's a surprise. But it's a tough game.
I think
which they won last year, by the way, 4-0.
I understand your logic. I don't necessarily think you can say they're favourites. I think you can say, I think that they will still win the title. But
No,
they're not favourites.
No, you're saying the other way around now. You're getting it wrong.
I'm not getting it wrong.
I'm not saying they're going to win the title, and everyone seems to think that's what I'm saying. I'm saying they're favourites. I don't necessarily think they're going to win it.
But no, and exactly that's what I'm saying.
They can't be favourites. They're 6 points behind, doesn't it?
Having played the game more, so they can't be favourites. But what you could say is that I think that they will win it. But you're not saying that. You're saying they're favourites, which they can't really be.
I'm saying that if you are them, or if I was asking something of a club, of a team, I look at Arsenal, I look at what they've done the last couple of years, and I don't care whether they've got 1 or 2 injuries. They're supposed to be a big club, so they should be able to absorb it like every other big team apparently is able to. The fixtures that they've got coming up, for the remainder of the season, they've got no excuse not to put themselves in a position where they can get results at Anfield with 3 games to go, which would put them in a position where they can win the league.
But that doesn't make them favourites. That's all logical.
Well, yeah,
but it doesn't make them favourites, does it?
Well, in my mind, it does.
Well, in my mind, it doesn't. And I think you're right. I think it's an interesting debate.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
people email me asking, why does Ian keep saying they're favourites?
I literally keep on explaining it
every week goes by.
Everyone seems to get upset by the fact that surely in the minds of the players, you don't want to be favourites anyway, because it's more pressure.
I don't necessarily think it is. I think if you look at the 2 teams now, Arsenal are the team under pressure because they've had a couple of years where they've got close. Man City have dropped away, and they haven't put themselves in a position where they should go on and win it. Arsenal. It's just like Liverpool. If Liverpool during those years where they finished a point behind Man City and got 90+ points, and then a random other team had come along and leapfrog them, they would be frustrated on a season where Man City haven't done anywhere near as well as we thought they would. So
that was like
I agree with you on the fixture list.
That was like City in 22-23 where they started reasonably iffy, and Arsenal were the ones who ended up being 9 points, 8 or 9 points clear at one point, and Liverpool at the time were like, I can't believe this is the season where we've gone rubbish, but City still ended up winning it anyway.
But
if it was City behind, I would certainly be more inclined to agree with you. But I think the other thing about fixtures, it's all right just looking at the fixtures on a piece of paper and saying they're tough and but by the time Arsenal play Liverpool at Anfield, Liverpool could have 10 injuries and Arsenal could have none, or the other way around. And Arsenal at the moment are suffering from injuries. They're not the team they can be because of that. And it's the same with last season when Liverpool had so many injuries. It wasn't normal, and it made any fixture against Liverpool.
Then the irony there was that Liverpool did very well when everybody was unfit, and then when they all came back is when they fell away.
Mm-hmm. Arsenal are 6 points ahead of Man City. If you'd have said that to an Arsenal fan, going into February, you're going to be 6 clear of City, they'd have absolutely been made up, wouldn't they? They'd say, Sam, well,
did they play
into this?
Had they played the same amount of games?
Yeah.
And they're playing each other at Arsenal in a couple of weeks, aren't they?
So the fact that they find themselves 6 behind Liverpool, who could go 9 ahead in 2 weeks, says that I'm starting to feel a little bit of frustration, maybe just from like the Arsenal social media realm, and difficult to always gauge the temperature there, but it does feel like they're sort of lashing out that it's not them who are taking advantage of this monumental City drop-off.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Liverpool fans on social media were lashing out when they drew 1-1 at Nottingham Forest, so I wouldn't really read too much into that.
Pressure. I think that the key difference, we were talking about it last week, and the key difference this year to where it was last, when Liverpool around this time were doing pretty well, weren't they, in the league at least. Arsenal had Liverpool still to come to the Emirates. Liverpool had been to the Emirates. They had that result to try and swing things, and then they won that game and closed the gap. I think the Anfield factor will be massive for Liverpool with the two teams playing 3 games. What is it before the end of the season? And Liverpool have got some tough fixtures, but this last week should give Liverpool themselves. I hope they take great confidence from it, because they went away to 2 tough games. They won one of them, and they won one of them late, and that should give them confidence in the sense that. That's what good teams do, don't they? They win.
Well, Arsenal won 1-0 in the last minute there last year.
So and then the Nottingham Forest game, they came back into it, and they, we were talking about Forest earlier, weren't we? I think that will be a tough fixture for a lot of teams, because not many teams defend as well as they do.
They've still got Arsenal, City, and Chelsea to come there.
So it's
and the more they win, the more that it becomes a big deal for them. So you actually want them to keep winning.
Do you think City can reel in Arsenal? I thought they were further behind than 6 points.
I thought City could do it until they drew Brentford. In fact, I think Brentford, the draw, has probably killed any chance they had of winning the title. I know some people say they were out of it, but it's City. But having watched them against Paris Saint-Germain last night, I know PSG were quite good, but they were absolutely terrible. They just fell away so much. It was ridiculous.
How lack of
it was like the Liverpool game where they just got overpowered. And I know that they've had some injuries, but suddenly you go, where are all their players gone? And that's why they're signing loads this month. And we could spend 15 podcasts trying to decipher why they're signing these players now. And we just haven't got time.
I've seen PSG celebrating their 4th goal, and it's cut to Gundogan. And I couldn't believe he was on the pitch.
He was,
I was thinking, has he just come on? I genuinely didn't see him at all.
He had a shot that went over the second half. Remember that?
I missed it. PSG were just rampant, weren't they? Absolutely battered them.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the answer to the Arsenal question that everyone keeps asking. Liverpool played Lille on Tuesday night, Thursday. It was a tough game, wasn't it? I think Lille showed why they've sort of pulled off some shock results in the Champions League this season, but it was quite impressive again that Liverpool, I know Lille equalised after going down to 10 men, but it felt fairly routine, didn't it?
It did, yeah, and I almost think it's doing Liverpool a bit of a disservice how routine it looked, because Lille, okay, they're not a sort of Champions League heavyweight, but they came to Anfield on the back of 21 games without defeat. They've already beaten Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and knew what they were doing. To be fair, they had a game plan, they stuck to it, and if Isamandi doesn't get sent off, who knows how that game sort of shakes up. But ultimately Liverpool get the win and they move on, and it's all relatively straightforward. And we were talking about, weren't we, Doyle, me, you and Carl Markham of the Press Association on our way out of Anfield, and Liverpool in the Champions League this season, just they're not getting enough wider credits, I don't think. They've won all 7 games, and you look at some of the other major clubs around Europe who were having a tough old time in the sort of revamped Champions League, no less Man City, but Real Madrid not exactly flying, are they? And Bayern Munich have found it difficult as well. It shouldn't be taken for granted what Liverpool are doing so far, and I'd love them to beat PSV next week, just to say that this revamped format, Liverpool win all 8 and go through with 100% record, because I don't think that's going to happen very often going forward.
No. I think the problem is nobody knows what value there is at finishing at any of these positions apart from the top 8. That's the thing. Someone could be... I think everyone just looks at it and goes, we know exactly what's going to happen. Liverpool will finish top. Whoever it was would finish top with loads of points. Real Madrid would scrape in. then Real Madrid would get 2 easy draws, and then, oh, look, they're in the quarterfinals, and the team at the top gets an iffy one because someone was struggling, but then they are going good second half of the season. So I don't necessarily think we know until we've had, not just this season, but 2 or 3 seasons of this, and then we'll know the value of finishing first, because what might happen is you might get teams who go, well, we just need to finish in the top 8, so they might rotate players a bit more or rest them. For me, it's interesting that Liverpool, I've said this before, Liverpool and Barcelona have had 2 of the toughest fixture lists in terms of because it's meant to be random, and it was random, but it was a lot less random for Liverpool in the sense they had 2 from Spain, 2 from Italy, 2 from Germany, 1 from France, and 1 from Holland. You're probably the 5, but probably might include Portugal in that, top leagues in Europe outside of England. And Barcelona have had some tough ones as well. But then you look at the teams Liverpool have played, Bologna, Girona, and Leipzig are already out. Like, they can't even make the top, they can't even make the top 24. So, again, maybe Liverpool are a bit lucky in that, and they got these teams at this time. They got Real Madrid when they had a couple of injuries as well. So, who knows?
I think we're all finding out in real time, aren't we, whether we like it or not. And Slot's getting asked at every single press conference, and I'm sure every manager in the Champions League is getting asked it. What do you think of the new formats every game? And I think for Liverpool, they have, like I wrote it in the match verdict, they haven't actually had to form an opinion on it because they've just won the games and they haven't moved from top spot almost from match day 1.
It's all very Arne Slot, isn't it? It just gets on with it. It doesn't make a bit of fuss, but does work very, very well. What's going to be his thing?
Sorry, what's going to be interested next week is on Wednesday at 8:00. There's 18 games that all kick off at the same time.
It's going to be brilliant, that.
And all the second halves will probably kick off at the same time as well. And so if you're not in Liverpool, not much to do with Liverpool, but say you're Aston Villa, I think they're 9th at the moment, or 8th? Yeah. You could go from like 4th to 15th or 16th, 17th, because I think there's 3 points separate 8th to 24th, which is just ridiculous, really. And it shows you that a lot of the teams have just not been able to quite work out what to do.
Yeah, City moved up 6 places yesterday on the back of going 2-0 up to PSG, and then PSG equalised and then going ahead. They moved from 18th to 24th.
They're now the 25th. Yeah, they're out of it now. City got to win that last game against Bruges. Who were 2 points ahead of them.
I think it's been great, to be honest. I thought that the old group stage got a bit stale because I think once a team won 3 games,
how many
3
times,
or 4
how many
games,
times did Man City play Shakhtar Donetsk?
They played the similar teams, and then once a team won 3 or 4 games, it just wasn't that exciting anymore. And I quite like. First of all, I like the fact that teams are playing. Liverpool played 8 different teams, and that's quite interesting. I used to love the UEFA Cup because you would just play a different team each round, and it was a bit more random. You play Barcelona and then you play Porto. It was a bit more fun in that respect, and I like that Liverpool have played 8 different teams. But I think Carragher tweeted, didn't he, last night, saying that the last game next week will be chaos.
Yeah,
it's set up this crazy league, like you say, where there's not quite enough games to create big distances between teams. So it's going to be interesting.
The biggest gap is at the top, 3 points from Liverpool to Barcelona, and at the bottom, where 2 teams have got none, and the next one up's got 3.
Yeah,
and they played 7 games, haven't they? Now, so.
There's going to be next week. There's going to be times in games where someone will be quite happy with the result they're getting, and then one other team will score, and it all will change.
There's so many of them; it's impossible.
Yeah. I think it's one of the benefits of putting together a good run to begin with, isn't it? Because you sort of give yourself that breathing space to avoid some of this sort of final day chaos, which I'm sure is going to be brilliant for the neutral. But if you're a fan of, like you say, there, Doyle Villa or Man City, you could be up and down and you don't really know what's happening. So Liverpool have certainly benefited from being really good early on and don't have to worry about it. It's going to be chaos, isn't it? And Liverpool are just going to go to PSV and quietly go about the business. I thought it was an interesting debate with Carragher and Ian Ladyman at the Daily Mail, because I was speaking to Kiefer today, Kiefer MacDonald, and we were saying, City got absolutely battered by Sporting. They got battered the other night. Juventus beat them. They drew with Inter. I think there was another one they might have lost. And they're still probably going to go through by virtue of beating Club Brugge on the final day. And there is this bit of a safety net for these big clubs now, perhaps because it's 8 games as opposed to 6. But on the flip side, I think we're going to see next week why UEFA was so keen, apart from the additional revenue, obviously, but why they were so keen to revamp the format, because it's just going to be so much movement and so much turnaround and drama and all that sort of stuff. And I think it will be really exciting on the night.
I think we've also got to bear in mind that there are 8 extra teams getting through to an extra round that they've made up.
Yeah,
So it's 24.
I don't love that
through.
round.
Yeah. So, but then that gives the advantage. That's one clear advantage of finishing in the top 8. Plus the fact that you get to play. So if you finish first or second, your second leg at home in the first knockout round. But after that, it's just done by draw.
Couple of good performances. We'll start Gorsty with Elliot because I think we talked about him in the last pod. Talked about his performance coming on against Brentford. Felt like he showed the sort of skills that we knew he could bring to the team. Obviously, a big deflection, but scores the winner against Lille and again has an influence. And I don't know whether either of you saw. Obviously you were at Anfield, but I've since seen back. He gave an interview to Amazon, which went on forever. He was stood with them for about 10 or 15 minutes. But it was just really honest stuff about his position, about how he's felt this season. I think he came across so well. So felt like a really good night for him and a bit of a step forward for him.
Yeah, it's might be a bit dramatic to say that he's sort of relaunched his career, but that's the way it feels like to me after a couple of really good performances, cameos off the bench. I thought he had a big hand, obviously, in the opening goal against Brentford, and then gets the assist for the second one. And then... thought he was good again the other night. He's just got a lovely way about him, hasn't he, when he takes the ball on a half turn and, his weight of pass, which I know something you've mentioned a few times, haven't you? Yeah. And doesn't mind the shots, to be fair. There's not many in the Liverpool squad who shoot from outside the box, and I think it's a bit of a directive not to, but other than Szoboszlai, Elliott's probably the only one who has a go and gets the winning goal because of it. So, yeah, I think it's been a really positive few days for him, and, just a little bit of a reminder to Slot that he is there, he is available, and yeah, you mentioned that interview you did with Prime and similar stuff to what he said to us in the mix zone on Saturday about Liverpool being his club, his team, and essentially I'm not going anywhere despite the curious transfer speculation.
Did you see that interview? Yeah.
I've seen one of the quotes tweeted. I haven't actually seen the interview, but it sounded along the same lines as what he was saying to us after Brentford, and yeah, it just seems like he's knuckling down and getting back into the team.
Fowler was really good. Fowler kept asking him questions, and he asked him about, have you knocked on the manager's door? And this was the answer I was most impressed with. He basically said, I can't really do that, can I? The team are playing really well. I wouldn't be so disrespectful to the teammates that are playing so well by going and demanding that I get in the team. And I just thought it was quite refreshing, and he clearly talked about someone who cares about the bigger picture and not just him, which is tough, isn't it, in a short career?
It is, yeah, and yeah, he is somebody who. Well, I think he's not as if like he's a player who has to prove himself at Liverpool, because we know how good he is, and he did very well last season, and he is somebody who I think, again, Liverpool have been doing that well. He's right. How can he get into the team? But I think now we're seeing some glimpses of not just him, but we were talking about this before, the bench making a contribution. I think it's either 5 of the last 6 or 6 of the last 7 goals have been scored by substitutes, because you had. Elliot, Salah wasn't, Toon against Jota, and Chiesa and Dan's against Accrington. So it's at the time of the season where they're going to be most needed. Because if you look at the start of the season, Jota scored the first goal from a sub in the Premier League, and that was against Fulham in December. So they weren't necessarily needed as much, but now they are, and the depth of the squad is starting to show a little bit. And when you've got someone like Elliot, who, if he was in the first team, I don't think anybody would be complaining. Well, maybe Szoboszlai might be complaining a little bit, but nobody else would be, because he's able to do it. And it'll probably just end up being, there will be games where he's going to make more of an impact at the number 10, because I do think number 10 is his best position. I think Liverpool knew that under Klopp, but they never ever played with a number 10. That's why they probably tried to move. Well, they did move into midfield, didn't they? And wanted to see whether he could do something there, which he did, to be fair, but he's definitely suits that number 10. He's a different kind of player to Szoboszlai. Yeah. He's more guile and craft than, not that I'm saying Szoboszlai hasn't got that, or what was it, Szoboszlai, are we saying?
Szoboszlai, I think.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Szoboszlai, or Dom, as he's known to his mates. He's a little bit more brute force, but he's good at the old press, and he's got a bit more physicality than Elliot, obviously because of the size. And I think sometimes Liverpool definitely need that in midfield, because as much as we love Gravenberch, and McAllister, I think, is a great player, McAllister does seem to get booked every other week because he's always just fouling people. And Gravenberch, he moves himself in a way where he doesn't necessarily have to make that many tackles. He's good at the old interceptions, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I think when that's why those three have done so well this season. And I think you're writing something on that, or
yeah, just in terms of how Liverpool rebuilt their midfield, because you look at it now, and those three are the three in Liverpool's first choice midfield, aren't they? So the transfer work undertaken 18 months ago is starting to really bear fruit.
But I do think, just going back to Elliott, he's very much a beneficiary of something that changed a long time ago. To be a good, successful team, you don't need 11 players, you need about 16 or 17, and he's one of them.
Yeah. Well, another player, obviously, you've just mentioned that had an impact from the bench that we thought we'd talk about was Federico Chiesa, who I saw quite a few people online talking about how well he looked. You know, he came on, he seemed to have 2 or 3 shots, got them on target, almost. I know Nunez was offside, and I don't think he could particularly help it because of the early move, but he did make an impact, Chiesa, and it's we're starting to see, aren't we, those small steps as he gets more to grips with things of him having a better impact.
He's as people seem to be surprised that he's doing quite well, but he is an Italy international. He's played for Serie A clubs and he's played in European Championships and all this, that, and the other. So this is a top quality player. It's always been getting him fit enough, getting him adapted, and language wasn't a problem because he could speak English from the off, couldn't he? So I think it's been an interesting one, shall we say, with Chiesa. But what we're now seeing is a player who, again, like Elliott, if he can start making a difference, say he scores 4 or 5 goals between now and the end of the season, they're probably going to be important goals because he's probably going to be largely coming off the bench. So he's somebody else who can make a difference. And he played a part in one of the goals, didn't he, against Brentford as well, didn't he? Was it the first one or the second one?
Second one,
yeah. Well, Salah did really well in midfield. I think that got overlooked a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm yet to be truly convinced by a decent showing against Accrington and then a couple off the bench, but it's a step in the right direction for him. I think Slot said after Accrington, don't get carried away after his goal, and I'm sure he isn't, and is still keeping his head down and wanting to show what he can do. And I think this is his role, isn't it? Ideally, coming off the bench, not necessarily having to change games, but it'd be nice if he could show what he's clearly capable of on a more consistent basis going forward. And then maybe looking at it, maybe next season, where you're looking at it where you're thinking he might be able to reasonably start games without it being seen as like a massive change to the team or anything like that. But yeah, it's been a difficult few months for him. Last fortnight or so has been much better, but he's just got to keep going in that direction, I guess.
The Italy manager has been speaking about him. Do you think that could spell the end?
Spalletti, yeah. What's he been saying, though? You've written the stuff, haven't you?
I'm not sure whether I can carry on after that. That's absolutely appalling, Joe. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You liked it, didn't you?
I tried to not sell it.
You know what you've done? You've let yourself down.
That's even worse.
I know. So, yes, he has been speaking, and he basically said, he was asked about Kate, says, look, he's the kind of player who can break the lines and get through one set to another one. It's very rare. I'd like to see him play more regularly, if he gets regular minutes. And he got asked specifically, would you like to see him come back to Italy and play in Serie A? And he said, yes, that'll be, he'd be in favour of that because basically you could then watch him every single week and see how he's going.
Yeah, I mean, I always think it's quite funny how the managers come and watch. Saw Thomas Tuchel watched his first game, didn't he? As like England boss in it.
No jokes on Tuchel. Come on.
He'd gone to like somewhere like Man City to watch. Just check if Phil Foden can still get in his England squad. And you think, well, that's not really. That's not really
to watch Phil Foden.
Yeah. Right, we've got some questions that I want to rattle through. Thank you for those of you who've been dropping questions in the YouTube comments. I've been keeping an eye on them. Let's start with, we haven't spoke contracts on this pod for a while. I think it's kind of got to the point where it's rolled on for so long that we forget about it.
Burned out from it, yeah.
6 months ago, most people would be confident that 2 or 3 of the contracts would be renewed. Anyone on the panel starting to doubt that now? I mean,
no, not for Van Dijk or Salah. I don't think there's ever been a arbitrary deadline for them. I think if you can go into April time and not really still be any more concerned than you are now, it's probably the best way of phrasing it. But with Alexander-Arnold, the longer it goes on, the longer you are concerned, and now I am. Said it for a number of months now. I could probably see him pitching up at Real Madrid now in the summer, and the longer it goes on, the less reason you have to think that he might stay.
Yeah.
That might prove to be wrong, and I hope it is. But certainly with Alexander-Arnold, the other two less so.
Ian?
I think Salah and Van Dijk. Well, at the start of the season, I said I thought Van Dijk and Salah would stay. and Trent would leave. And the only thing that changed my mind is when Trent did an interview after the Bournemouth game, I think it was, and said some really nice things that put a seed of doubt in my mind. But since then, it's been more Trent's going. It's just a shame. If he goes, he'll end up going to Real Madrid, a detestable club.
Yeah, I think that makes three of us. The one that worries me, it doesn't worry me most in terms of, well, it kind of does and it doesn't, but Van Dijk, I'm surprised they've not got something over the line there. I find it, I would have thought, and this is a very lazy way of looking at it maybe, but I would have thought that would have been a fairly easy, well, a more straightforward one to get done. You know, he's the club captain. He is, you know, well respected. He's still a key part of the team. Touch wood, he plays every week. He doesn't strike me as someone that would be demanding the things that Salah or Trent might demand.
So, do you think it might be linked to Salah though?
Perhaps linked to Salah. Perhaps they're all linked to each other. Perhaps it's contract length, especially him and Salah are around the same age, aren't they? And I wonder whether, you know, if one of them's saying 3 years, the other one will be saying, well, I want 3 years.
Van Dijk's, yeah, I think they're both. I think 13 months between them, maybe. Van Dijk's older.
But they're similar in the sense that I think if one asked for 3 years, the other one would probably say, well, if you're giving him 3 years, I want 3 years.
Sorry, 11 months, I think. But do you know what I think it is? I think Van Dijk is perfectly within his rights to demand Salah money. You know, there's no difference in importance. It's just that Van Dijk is less obvious because he's the defender. I think he's having a sensational season. He's been the best defender in the Premier League and huge reason behind Liverpool's form. So, I mean, I know Salah has as well, but I don't think Van Dijk is out of order if he is saying, pay me Salah money.
Barry asked, with Gravenberch excelling, do you see a proven centre mid still being bought, or is Bajcetic seen as a longer term backup option and competition to Grav from the summer onwards? Bajcetic we talked about the other day, didn't we?
We've done him. Yeah.
And we thought,
no,
probably not.
No.
I still think they'll probably
he'd need another loan to someone better than Salzburg.
Yeah, James Pearce has written something about him today, I think, hasn't he? Stefan Bajcetic, and Liverpool seem to be happy with his loan spell, but I don't think he's pulled up any trees, and Liverpool were hopeful of him doing that. And I remember Slot talking in glowing terms about him on deadline day when his transfer was confirmed, and it was basically he is a Liverpool player, and the plan is for him to be a Liverpool player for a number of years, but he needs to go and play for him to do that. And I don't quite know how it's gone. Obviously, Pep Linders has been sacked, so I don't think it's been going that well generally. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of buying another midfielder, I've said for ages, I would like to see it happen. But I think maybe the emergence of Gravenberch means that the allocation of funds needs to go elsewhere, because I think they probably need the number 9 as well. Well, actually, probably in the summer, they need the number 9 more than they need a midfielder.
If you could add any Liverpool player from the Premier League era to this current side, who would you add?
Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard.
That's a silly question.
Maybe Suarez.
This person has said Suarez.
I mean,
so I think they need a centre forward, so I'd add Emil Heskey. Put him in the middle there.
In Torres would be good in this team, wouldn't he, instead of Nunes? That'd be good.
But I think Torres was the type of player who I don't know whether he could link with the other two. I think Suarez could do everything. I agree. I think Suarez is.
Suarez
you know, be good in this team. Firmino.
Yeah. Firmino.
Strange how Firmino just kind of got discarded, wasn't it?
His contract
easily as it was.
Only realised he wasn't getting one in late March, so we've got a long way to go, folks.
Maybe I'm going to find out.
There's a piece of content in there, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then finally, with this new Champions League format being viewed as success, if City are not appropriately punished, do you see either a breakaway Premier League or European League being formed without them? I don't know about breakaway league, but I think if City don't get punished,
there might be some breakaway owners going off and going, I don't want to do this anymore.
I certainly think whether they ask for like the documents to be shown, because they'll want to know what's going on, won't they? I think every other owner in the league will demand an answer if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, can you make a sort of freedom of information request for that sort of stuff?
You should be able to, shouldn't you? Surely.
Yeah, I mean, we don't cover Manchester City, so we're not as sort of privy to the details as our sort of Manchester Evening News counterparts would be, or reports in the national media who cover it more. So we're only sort of guessing the same way anyone else is, I suppose. But yeah, there's something. A City buying all these players because they think they need to rebuild, or are they buying all these players?
I think it's one of these 15 pods now.
Or are they buying all these players because they think that something's coming down the line, i.e. maybe a transfer ban, and they need to get the ducks in a row now? I'm not really sure, but I just can't see a world where that's just forgotten about, and it's, actually City didn't do anything wrong, let's all move on.
I think Manchester City know something's coming. They don't know what it is, but they're angling all over the place to make sure they can look after themselves, which is fair enough. But if they do get found guilty, well, they shouldn't have done it in the first place if they did do it.
I'm slightly concerned in the sense that the Premier League, no PSR breaches this time around. The settlement with Everton recently, I just
sick of the headlines.
I feel like they're setting the table to make this all go away, and sort of, I think they've bitten off more than they can chew. And especially if you go back to the Everton charge, you charge one club with one breach and punish them severely.
It's different though.
I know it's different, but that's not how it will be perceived by the public and by other clubs.
Well, they might sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, you wonder how extortionate these legal bills are racking up, and City have the means to fight it, because it's their existence, really, isn't it? That's under threat, whereas the Premier League are just looking to sort of bring accusations to the table, and you wonder what the appetite is like after, was it 5 years, 6 years at least?
I wonder if they thought that going after some of the other clubs, Everton, Forest, Leicester, would be far more straightforward, and finding that hasn't kind of process hasn't got as well.
It's unbelievably hard. How you mean you're nearly 40 now? How often can you remember teams being deducted points?
Barely ever.
I can remember it
happened in the 90s.
The early 90s, Man United and Arsenal had a bust upon. It was a game that was live on telly, where games weren't very often live on telly. They had a big scrap, and there was a big hoo-ha, and I think one of them got deducted 2 points, another one won. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
I think it was 1990, actually. Could have been. I think one of them still won the league anyway. Yeah, there was a big scrap. Yeah.
Someone couldn't complete a match in the mid-90s.
That was Middlesbrough against, and they had points. They didn't have the points deducted. They said they awarded the game to, I think it was Blackburn, because they had a massive flu outbreak, and Middlesbrough ended up going down by the amount of points that they had taken, that weren't given to them, or they couldn't compete for in the game, because it just never got fulfilled, that fixture.
We've seen it happen a lot more in the Championship, but that's usually people going into administration.
Exactly, yeah.
So, it's finance related.
But that's why I think the Premier League have bitten off more than they can chew, because and the structure with having independent panels, an independent panel can see every different case in a different way, can't they? So I would be stunned. What is an effective punishment?
Well, don't forget, administration, they aren't the ones that put the teams into administration. No. So that's a set penalty, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of to protect not so much the clubs, but I think it's the people who are employed by the clubs, and also to make it kind of fair in a way. These are more targeted punishments at teams who are trying to find a way around certain legal financial restrictions, which Nottingham Forest blatantly said, we did it, and we did it on purpose, and look, we can take our points off us because this is exactly what we wanted, so we've done well done. Everton was a little bit different, but theirs was over a great period of time, and this, that and the other, and obviously the recent one that's they decided to follow through can't have been that.
That was related to interest payments on the stadium bill, which I think is fair enough on Everton's behalf. I don't think you should be penalised for.
They disputed how those.
Cities is different completely, and also Cities is also a lot of the charges, if what I'm read is right, is about technically withholding information, which kind of suggests why you're doing that. What are you up to?
But also as well, like these legal bills that City are having to pay, not necessarily having to be paid out by the club themselves, I guess that is paid by the owners, so it's not related to, like, it won't show up on the PSR balance sheets that they've lost 12 million in legal fees or whatever. So if that is right, then their owners can just pay through the nose forever and ever, amen, can't they? And that, I guess, is where the issue comes in, that City just have the means to fight anything, and the Premier League, after so many years, running up all kinds of bills, and where's the end?
Don't forget, City were banned from the Champions League for a year or two, and then they got around that.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether or not the conversations, if any, have been taking place behind the scenes, have been over brokering some kind of agreement over what the punishment will be and what an acceptable punishment is, because I think City must know we're not get away with it, but whatever they've done, there has to be, a consequence to their actions, and I think we'll find out soon enough. We're certainly meant to know by the end of the season, aren't we?
Be nice to find out, wouldn't it, sooner or later? And I think we're all getting a bit bored of it being just hanging over the football, really.
I still want to see Ali Sissoko with that Premier League winners medal.
Well, that's the thing is that's never going to happen. No. They're all gone. And I know.
Well, I think Jurgen Klopp. I think he actually he hasn't been as informed as perhaps you might expect, doesn't he? Because I think he seems to think it's his Liverpool who were impacted by it, which in a roundabout way they were. But
I think he knows. I think that's what he's trying to say, isn't he? If City are guilty of anything in 2014, well, it has a knock-on effect for 2, 3, 4 years later when they've got that foundation, and that's why we were talking about net spend the other day with Arsenal. And I think City's net spend is almost positive. It might not be positive, but it's considerably lower than Liverpool's. But when you've spent for 15 years beforehand,
and you've built the academy, spending a fortune on that and getting players in and selling them on.
City is just as good at selling players as Liverpool are for big fees.
Really quickly then, I was misled to think this was a bigger day in the title race tomorrow on Saturday because Gorsty told me Arsenal were playing Nottingham Forest. That's not true.
You just weren't listening.
But it's still a significant day.
Could be, yeah. I mean, they're all playing at 3 o'clock, aren't they, the top three? So Liverpool, obviously at home to Ipswich, which is the easiest of the 3 fixtures you'd suggest. Arsenal at Wolves and Nottingham Forest at Bournemouth, which is the most difficult one, and that's going to be a big game for the shake-up in the European places, isn't it? Because Bournemouth are absolutely flying. So yeah, it could be a big day. We said last week that Saturday was going to be a big one because just sort of had the feel of it, Liverpool playing and then Arsenal hosting Aston Villa, and so it turned out to be, that 2-point swing back in Liverpool's favour, and that could be huge. And obviously, it's all lives and buts, but depending on results this weekend, it could be another big one.
Yeah, certainly could. Should we pick our teams?
Can we go to what I think before we go? The person at the start who said, "Tell me about your tweet."
What tweet has he done?
It was about the tweet. I'm assuming it was about the tweet where I said
he did clarify. I think to an extent.
Did he? Which one is it?
He said something about music. I think.
Music. I don't know what that is then.
Well, what were you going to say?
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to bring that up with beer all day.
He said. Sorry, well, this is dead space. Pick your teams.
It's all right, let's pick the team. We can go back to that. Right. What do you think, Paul?
Alisson, Trent will come back in. Thought Bradley did okay the other night. Left back's the one, isn't it? It always is. I think Tsimikas probably starts again. And Konate returns with Van Dijk.
I agree with that. Joe, do you agree?
Sorry, I found... What was that post on X about Ian? Please explain for us all, mate. Something about the singing.
Yes, that's the one I thought it was.
What's the singing?
Well, at the game on on Tuesday,
you're not singing anymore.
The game on Tuesday, I put, "You're not singing anymore. Sing some of the fans who don't go to the game that often." Now, that was merely a statement of fact because obviously we go to the games all the time. Mm-hmm. We don't hear it during league games. If you ever hear it, it's during cup games, and that's when there are greater variety of fans coming in, and you get a lot of first timers or people who don't go that often. Mm-hmm. So that's the assumption that's made there. And that started a massive argument with people going, not so at me, but almost between each other going.
Spirity Shankly tweeted it.
And it's like, oh, hang on a minute. I'm just reporting a fact here, right? With a little bit of assumption behind it, which, as I've just explained.
A little bit of your trademark sarcasm in there as well.
That's not sarcasm. That's literally a state. That's not sarcasm at all.
Wind-uppery.
But no, I'm just making an observation. I'm putting it out there. Anyway, so I think he wants to explain. I've just explained it. Yeah. The more the conversation is to be had was about it became the old thing, didn't it? It became a massive argument about the fans who go all the time are the ones who don't sing because they're there all the time. So they're not so much taking it for granted, but they're used to it. So you can't really have a go at the fans who don't go all the time, turn up and sing songs that they've heard other people sing at the games and not know. Because, it's a little bit... What's the word I'm looking for? What the fans who don't want it... It's not the Liverpool way, and it's like, what's that? What's that? We don't sing that. We don't.
It was a surprise to hear. Like, you're not singing anymore. It's something you normally hear. Well,
you got to be careful
in the 90s, maybe, or maybe in lower league football.
Yeah, is that maybe they start singing easy.
Yeah, well,
I mean, telling the keeper that he's not particularly good.
But it started a conversation, which became an argument, which became, obviously, it's quite divisive, and it became a bigger thing about people going to the games and do the ones who go all the time, are they superior to the other ones? Yeah, gatekeepers, that's a better one, yeah. But if they really want to be gatekeepers, perhaps they should be singing more the songs that, they sing most of the time. And to be fair, it was a weird kind of atmosphere because, as we said at the start of it, Gorsty said, it's so routine. It's like you actually qualify for the Champions League knockout stage with a game to spare because you've done all the hard bit. Bayer Leverkusen was a great atmosphere. Real Madrid was a great atmosphere. Lille, it was an unusual January game in the Champions League. It was absolutely freezing. It just wasn't. It's just the way it is. It's like, I would imagine the atmosphere against Ipswich, if it becomes a bit of a routine game, will be more of the same.
Yeah. Was it the worst shout you've ever heard at Anfield?
No.
You're not singing anymore?
It's not way worse than that.
There's only one worse for me, and it's telling Joe Gomez to shoot.
Oh, what about when they have a goal kick?
The goal kick thing. I mean, obviously that doesn't happen at Anfield.
Yeah, if it did, why doesn't it happen again?
Well,
that doesn't happen at Anfield.
If that started happening at Anfield ever, I think they should close the place down. But what we're talking about is when teams have a goal kick and the opposition fans go, "You're
rubbish."
Yeah.
I mean, that is. You may as well wear a big sign on your forehead that says championship. Right?
Now you're just
being... You're going to say Wolves?
anyone.
But now you're being superior? You're acting superior, aren't you?
I am. Any team that sings that should be automatically relegated.
What makes...
They should sort that out before they sort City out. Anyway.
I mean, I agree that it's an absolutely dreadful chance, but I don't think it should be just relegated to, that's a lower league thing from these fans who don't know any better, which is what you're implying.
Yeah, I think it should. I disagree.
I
think we need to sort that out. That is a big.
You're not singing anymore
problem,
is on the barred list.
Problem in football.
No,
if you're not singing anymore, it's a bit old school. But you'd
have been on safer ground if you'd have called it. It's very England national team because Tell
you what, you don't hear anymore, and I want to bring it back. What? You'll never beat the keeper. And the keeper's having a great game. Alisson.
When have they ever sang that?
No, it's just like a generic footy shout, isn't it? You'll never. It's an old school.
It used to be.
You'll never beat the keeper.
Showing my.
You think that's lovely? Yeah.
There used to be. You'll never beat Des Walker. He used to play for Forest. He was very fast. That's the first time I've ever heard it. It's a long time ago. You remember? You're nearly 50.
He's older than me. Right. What was your team? What was your back four?
The back four was Trent Canati, Van Dijk, and Simicast.
Yeah,
Do you agree?
Agreed. Gives you midfield, Gorsty, then.
Yeah, still slightly concerned that Ryan Gravenberch is being flogged into the ground, but can't really think.
Did you see that
time for him to get a break?
No,
missed that one.
It doesn't matter.
But I'm going to play him, and then he can maybe have. Not even sure I'll take him to PSV. So
you should have the week off after that. Is the FA Cup?
No, it's Bournemouth.
Oh, Bournemouth and then well, not the week off. Sorry, right.
Yeah, but he's playing anyway. McAllister, Gravenberch, and you know what? Just to play a bit of devil's advocate, I'll put Harvey Elliott in there.
Yeah,
I agree.
Great. I will put Szoboszlai in there, like you say, and
we don't know about Jones yet, do we?
Yeah,
so
I don't think Jones will. There's no point in playing, even if it's not a bad one. Ian, gives you front three:
Salah, Nunez, and Gakpo.
Yeah. Just stick with Nunez now. Just keep him in there and let him build up a little bit of a run.
I was slightly disappointed he didn't score the other night. I kind of think.
Didn't really have a chance, did he?
Yeah,
he had that one shot saved by Chevalier in the second half, but other than that,
I do feel with Nunez at the moment it feels like he gets a goal and then has a couple of quiet games.
Yeah.
And he needs to get away from having quiet games. I think he just needs 2 or 3 to go in consecutively to keep building him up. And hopefully Ipswich will be an opportunity. Give us a score prediction.
3-0 to Liverpool.
3-0.
If they score early, it could be 4 or 5 because I think Ipswich properly on a downer after what happened against Man City. If they don't, 2-1.
So what are you going for?
Well, it's an either or.
Choose one of the two.
Oh, 5-0.
5-0. It's the biggest scoreline Ian's ever predicted. I will say 3-0 as well. There you have it. That's it. Tune into the post-match pod on Saturday with Theo, probably about, what would that be, 5:30, something like that, 6 o'clock. Look out for that on YouTube and on usual podcast platforms. Thank you for your messages, your questions, your feedback. Again, if you want to drop me a question ahead of a pod, we'll be recording on Monday. joe.rimmer@reachplc.com. Same format for these gentlemen, if you'd like to copy them in. He's shaking his head, so copying in. And we'll be back on Monday. Thank you very much.
You will. And always remember that you'll never beat the keeper.
Yeah.
There you go.
And happy 40th.
We'll let Paul have the last word. Goodbye. Ta-ra.